The unexpected match. On the crystalline planet of Zephyria, Ambassador Lyra stood before the Interstellar Council, her iridescent scales shimmering under the soft light of the Grand Chamber. She had dedicated her life to fostering peace and understanding between the various species of the galaxy. Today, however, she faced a challenge that struck much closer to home. Ambassador Lyra, the Council Elder's voice resonated through the chamber. Your unwavering commitment to interspecies cooperation has been invaluable. We believe it is time for the next step in our galactic integration efforts. Your daughter, Astra, has been selected for our new diplomatic union program. Lyra's inner eyelids flickered rapidly, a sign of surprise among her people. Esteemed Elder, I am honored. But may I ask with whom Astra will be paired? The Elder's expression softened. A human. Ambassador, Lieutenant Commander Jack Harper of Earth's Interstellar Fleet. A collective murmur rippled through the chamber. Humans were relatively new to the galactic stage, and their reputation was complicated. Known for their resilience and adaptability, they were also perceived as unpredictable and, at times, aggressive. Lyra maintained her composure, but her scales shifted to a deeper blue, betraying her concern. I see. And has Astra been informed? Not yet, the Elder replied. We thought it best for you to share the news. Later that evening, Lyra found herself in Astra's quarters, her daughter's eager eyes fixed upon her. Astra had just completed her advanced studies in xenobiology and was eager to follow in her mother's diplomatic footsteps. Mother, you seem troubled, Astra observed, her own scales shifting to a concerned green. What news do you bring from the council? Lyra took a deep breath, her gills fluttering slightly. My dear Astra, you have been chosen for the diplomatic union program. It is a great honor, but I must admit, the match they have selected is unexpected. Astra's eyes widened with excitement. A union. With whom? A Centaurian scholar, or perhaps one of the ethereal Novarians. No, my dear, Lyra said gently. You have been matched with a human. The color drained from Astra's scales, leaving them a pale, almost translucent white. A human, she whispered, her voice trembling. But they're so primitive, violent. How can I possibly form a union with one of them? Lyra moved to comfort her daughter, her own scales now a soothing lavender. Astra, I know this is shocking. Humans are indeed different from us, but they have also shown great potential. This union could be a significant step towards better understanding between our species. Astra shook her head, her fins quivering with distress. Mother, I've studied their history. Their wars, their destruction of their own planet. How can I be expected to form a bond with such a creature? My dear, Lyra said softly, remember that all species have their flaws and their strengths. Humans have made great strides in recent years. They've joined us in space, contributed to galactic peace efforts. This human, Jack Harper, is a respected officer in their fleet. But Astra was inconsolable. She paced the room, her scales flickering between shades of distress. I can't do this, Mother. I won't. Surely there must be another way to promote diplomacy that doesn't involve mating with a human. Lyra sighed, her own doubts warring with her diplomatic instincts. Astra, I understand your fears, but I ask you to keep an open mind. Meet this Jack Harper. If after meeting him, you still feel this strongly, I will personally appeal to the council on your behalf. Astra stopped pacing, her scales slowly settling into a muted blue of resignation. Very well, Mother. I will meet him. But I cannot promise more than that. As Lyra left her daughter's quarters, she couldn't shake the feeling that this union, intended to bring their species closer, might instead drive them further apart. Yet she also held onto a glimmer of hope. Perhaps, just perhaps, this unexpected pairing could lead to a breakthrough in interspecies relations. Little did Lyra know that light years away on a bustling space station orbiting Earth, Lieutenant Commander Jack Harper was receiving similar news, with his own set of fears and reservations about being paired with an alien. The stage was set for a meeting that would challenge preconceptions on both sides and potentially reshape the future of human-alien relations. First impressions. The bustling intergalactic diplomacy center on Nexus Station hummed with activity as beings from across the galaxy mingled in its vast atrium. Astra stood near a shimmering holographic fountain, her scales a nervous blend of pale blue and green. She tugged at the formal diplomatic robe draped over her slender frame, feeling out of place among the diverse crowd. Across the atrium, Lieutenant Commander Jack Harper stepped off the transport pad, his crisp Earth Fleet uniform standing out among the colorful attire of the alien diplomats. He ran a hand through his short, dark hair, taking a deep breath to calm his nerves. As Jack scanned the crowd, his eyes fell on Astra. Even from a distance, her otherworldly beauty took his breath away. Her iridescent scales caught the light, creating a mesmerizing display of colors. Jack had seen images of Zephyrians before, but nothing had prepared him for the reality. Astra spotted Jack at the same moment. Her initial reaction was one of surprise. She had expected a brutish, hairy creature, but the human before her was not unpleasant to look at. His uniform accentuated a lean, athletic build, and his features were symmetrical and even by Zephyrian standards. Jack approached Astra, his heart racing. As he got closer, he noticed the subtle shifts in her scale coloration, fascinated by this nonverbal form of communication he'd only read about. "Hello," Jack said, his voice surprisingly steady. "I'm Lieutenant Commander Jack Harper. You must be Astra." Astra's gills fluttered slightly, a sign of nervousness. "Greetings, Lieutenant Commander Harper. I am indeed Astra, daughter of Ambassador Lyra." An awkward silence fell between them. Jack cleared his throat. "Please call me Jack. I hope my appearance doesn't disappoint. I know Zephyrians and humans have some preconceptions about each other." Astra's scales flickered with surprise at his directness. "I admit I had certain expectations, but you are not what I imagined." Jack chuckled, some of the tension easing from his shoulders. "I'll take that as a compliment. To be honest, I was pretty nervous about this whole thing. Still am, actually." Astra found herself relaxing slightly at his admission. "As am I. This situation is unprecedented." "Well," Jack said with a small smile, "maybe we can be unprecedented together. How about we start with a tour of the station? I've heard the observation deck has some amazing views." Astra hesitated for a moment, then nodded. That would be acceptable. As they made their way through the station, Jack and Astra began to talk, hesitantly at first, then with growing ease. Jack was fascinated by Astra's knowledge of xenobiology, and she found herself intrigued by his experiences in Earth's space fleet. On the observation deck, they stood side by side, gazing out at the star-studded expanse of space. Jack glanced at Astra, marveling at how the starlight played across her scales. "It's beautiful, isn't it?" he said softly. "No matter how many times I see it, space never fails to amaze me." Astra nodded, her eyes wide with wonder. "It is indeed magnificent. On Zephyria, our atmosphere refracts light in a way that makes it difficult to see the stars clearly. This view is breathtaking." Jack smiled. "You know, that's something our peoples have in common. A sense of awe at the universe. Maybe we're not so different after all." Astra turned to look at him, her scales shifting to a thoughtful purple. "Perhaps you are right, Jack. I must admit, you have surprised me. You are not at all what I expected a human to be like." "I'll take that as a compliment," Jack said with a grin. "And for what it's worth, you've blown all my expectations out of the water too. In a good way." As they continued to talk, both Jack and Astra found their preconceptions slowly melting away. They discovered shared interests in science, exploration, and even a similar sense of humor. By the time they parted ways for the evening, both felt a sense of cautious optimism about their future together. Back in her quarters, Astra composed a message to her mother. "Dear Mother, I met Lieutenant Commander Harper today. Jack, he is not what I expected. I find myself intrigued and wish to learn more. Perhaps this union is not as impossible as I first thought. Your daughter, Astra. Meanwhile, Jack sat at his desk, penning his own report to his superiors. 2. Admiral Jameson. Diplomatic Union Program. Sir, I've had my first meeting with Astra of Zephyria. Initial contact has been positive. She's brilliant, fascinating, and nothing like what I imagined. I believe this program has potential. Request permission to proceed with further cultural exchange activities. Respectfully, Lieutenant Scamder, Jack Harper. As both Astra and Jack drifted off to sleep that night, their minds were filled with thoughts of each other and the possibilities that lay ahead. The journey they had embarked upon was just beginning, but already it promised to be an adventure unlike any other. Cultural exchange. In the weeks that followed their initial meeting, Astra and Jack found themselves spending more and more time together. The Intergalactic Diplomacy Center had arranged a series of cultural exchange activities for them, designed to foster understanding between their two species. One sunny afternoon, Jack led Astra through a holographic recreation of Earth's Grand Canyon. Astra's scales shimmered with awe as she took in the vast, rugged landscape. "This is incredible," she breathed, her gills fluttering with excitement. "I've never seen anything like it on Zephyria. Our world is mostly ocean and crystalline formations." Jack grinned, enjoying her reaction. "It's one of Earth's natural wonders, formed over millions of years by the Colorado River carving through rock layers." Astra turned to him, her eyes wide with curiosity. "Your planet's geological processes are fascinating. On Zephyria, our landscape is shaped more by the tides and the growth of our living crystal forests." Living crystal forests? Jack's eyebrows rose in surprise. "Now that sounds incredible. I'd love to see that someday." Astra's scales flushed a warm pink at his words, a reaction that didn't go unnoticed by Jack. He was getting better at reading her nonverbal cues, finding them just as expressive as any human facial expression. The next day, it was Astra's turn to share her culture. She had prepared a simulation of a Zephyrian tidal pool, complete with bioluminescent creatures that pulsed with ethereal light. As Jack crouched down to examine a star-shaped organism, Astra explained, "This is a luminous star. It communicates through patterns of light, much like how my scales change color to express emotions." Jack looked up at her, his eyes sparkling with interest. "That's amazing. You know, I've been meaning to ask. I hope this isn't too personal, but what do your current colors mean?" Astra's scales rippled with a mix of blue and violet. "Oh, well, blue often indicates calmness or contentment, and violet, it can mean curiosity, or sometimes affection." Jack felt his heart skip a beat at her words. "Affection, huh?" he said softly, a warm smile spreading across his face. As the days passed, Jack and Astra delved deeper into each other's cultures. They shared meals, with Astra introducing Jack to Zephyrian cuisine, delicate dishes that seemed to change flavor with each bite, while Jack introduced her to the diverse tastes of Earth, from spicy curries to sweet desserts. They exchanged stories of their childhoods, their dreams, and their fears. Jack spoke of his time in the Earth fleet, the wonders and dangers he'd encountered among the stars. Astra shared tales of Zephyrian history, of the great storms that shaped her world's society, and of her own journey to follow in her mother's diplomatic footsteps. One evening, as they sat together in a quiet corner of the station's arboretum, surrounded by plants from 100 worlds, Jack found himself marveling at how comfortable he felt with Astra. "You know," he said, his voice soft in the peaceful atmosphere, "when I first heard about this program, I was skeptical. I mean, how could two beings from such different worlds ever truly understand each other?" Astra's scales shimmered with a gentle blue-green. "I felt the same way. I was afraid, to be honest. Afraid of you, of humans in general." Jack nodded, understanding. And now? Now, Astra said, her hand moving to rest gently on his, I find myself grateful for this opportunity. You've shown me that there's so much more to humans, to you, than I ever imagined. Jack felt a warmth spread through him at her touch. I feel the same way about you, Astra. You're unlike anyone I've ever met. In the best possible way. As they sat there, hand in hand, both felt a sense of connection that transcended their physical differences. They had embarked on this journey as reluctant diplomats, thrust together by circumstance. But now, they were forming a bond that neither had expected, a bond of friendship, of understanding, and perhaps something more. Yet, even as Jack and Astra grew closer, forces beyond their control were stirring. Tensions between some human factions and alien species were rising, threatening the fragile peace that diplomats like Astra's mother had worked so hard to build. As the sun set on another day of their cultural exchange, neither Jack nor Astra could have predicted the challenges that lay ahead. Challenges that would test not only their growing relationship but also their loyalties to their respective peoples and their commitment to intergalactic peace. Rising tensions. The peaceful atmosphere of Nexus Station was shattered one morning by the blaring of alarms. Jack, who had been reviewing reports in his quarters, rushed to the command center. There he found Astra already present, her scales a turbulent mix of red and orange, indicating distress and concern. What's happening? Jack asked, his training kicking in as he scanned the holographic displays. Admiral Thorne, a stern-faced woman with graying hair, turned to address them. We've received reports of an attack on a joint human-Zephyrian research outpost in the Epsilon sector. Details are still coming in, but it appears to be the work of the Isolationist Front. Jack's jaw clenched. The Isolationist Front was a radical human group that opposed any form of alien interaction, viewing it as a threat to human independence. They had been causing trouble for years, but never anything on this scale. Astra's voice was tight with worry. Were there any casualties? Admiral Thorne's expression darkened. I'm afraid so. Both human and Zephyrian lives were lost. The news hit both Jack and Astra hard. They exchanged a glance, seeing their own pain reflected in each other's eyes. Lieutenant Commander Harper, Admiral Thorne continued, given your involvement in the Diplomatic Union program, I'm assigning you to the investigation team. We need to get to the bottom of this quickly before it escalates further. Jack nodded, his mind already racing with the implications. Understood, Admiral. I'll prepare immediately. As the command center bustled with activity, Jack pulled Astra aside. I have to go, he said softly. But I promise I'll find out what happened and make sure justice is served. Astra's scales flickered with a mix of emotions, fear, anger, and something that looked like concern for him. Be careful, Jack. This situation, it's volatile. I fear it could undo everything we've been working towards. Jack reached out, gently taking her hand in his. I won't let that happen. What we have, what we've built here, it's proof that our species can coexist, can even. He paused, searching for the right words. Care for each other. I'll fight to protect that. Astra's scales flushed a deep purple, a color Jack had come to associate with strong emotion. As will I, she said firmly. I'll contact my mother. Perhaps she can use her diplomatic channels to help calm the situation. As Jack prepared to leave, the station was abuzz with tension. Humans and aliens alike were on edge, eyeing each other with suspicion. The attack had brought long simmering prejudices and fears to the surface. In the days that followed, Jack found himself in the thick of the investigation. The evidence pointed clearly to the Isolationist Front, but something didn't add up. The attack was too well coordinated, too precise. It was almost as if they had inside information. Meanwhile, Astra was facing challenges of her own. Some members of the Zephyrian delegation were calling for an immediate cessation of all cooperation with humans. They argued that humans were too unpredictable, too dangerous to be trusted. But that's exactly what the attackers want. Astra argued passionately in a heated council meeting. They seek to drive us apart, to undo years of progress. We can't let them succeed. Her words fell on some deaf ears, but others listened. The council was divided, much like the station itself. As tensions rose, Jack and Astra found their own relationship strained. Their duties kept them apart, and when they did manage to meet, their conversations were overshadowed by the crisis. One evening, as they walked through the now quiet corridors of the station, Jack voiced his frustration. "I feel like we're losing ground, Astra. Every step forward we take, something pushes us 2 steps back." Astra's scales shimmered with a sad blue. "I know, but we can't give up, Jack. What we have, what we've learned about each other, it's too important." Jack stopped, turning to face her. "Astra," he began, but was cut off by the sudden blaring of alarms. Admiral Thorne's voice came over the station-wide comm system. "All personnel, report to emergency stations. We have detected multiple unauthorized ships approaching the station. This is not a drill. Repeat, this is not a drill." Jack and Astra exchanged a look of shock and determination. Whatever was coming, they would face it together. As they raced towards the command center, both knew that the true test of their bond, and of the future of human-alien relations, was about to begin. The station shuddered as the first impacts hit the outer shields. In the chaos that followed, Jack and Astra found themselves at the center of a conflict that would determine not just their fate, but the fate of intergalactic peace itself. United Front. The command center of Nexus Station was a flurry of activity as Jack and Astra burst through the doors. Holographic displays showed a fleet of ships surrounding the station, their designs a mishmash of stolen and cobbled-together technology. Admiral Thorne's voice cut through the chaos. "Status report." "Admiral," a young ensign called out, "we've identified the ships. They're a mix of human and alien vessels. It seems the isolationist front has allied with extremist factions from other species." Jack and Astra exchanged a shocked glance. This changed everything. "They're hailing us," another officer announced. A grainy hologram flickered to life in the center of the room, revealing a human man with a scared face and cold eyes. Beside him stood a Zephyrian, their scales a harsh, militant red. "This is Commander Vex of the Purity Alliance," the man growled. "We demand the immediate cessation of all interspecies cooperation and the segregation of all races to their home systems. Comply, or we will open fire." Admiral Thorne stepped forward, her voice steady. "This is Admiral Thorne of Nexus Station. We do not negotiate with terrorists. Stand down immediately." The communication cut off abruptly. Moments later, the station rocked with the first volley of weapons fire. As alarms blared and crew members rushed to their battle stations, Jack's mind raced. Something about the attackers' ships nagged at him. He turned to Astra, an idea forming. "Astra, those ships, they're using both human and alien tech, but they can't possibly have optimized the integration. If we could exploit that weakness..." Astra's eyes widened, her scales flickering with excitement. "Yes, the resonance frequencies would be misaligned. If we could generate a counter-frequency, we could disrupt their systems." Jack finished. They grinned at each other, momentarily forgetting the chaos around them. Admiral Thorne overheard their exchange. "Whatever you two are cooking up, do it fast. Our shields won't hold forever." Jack and Astra sprang into action. While Jack worked with the station's engineers to modify their deflector array, Astra used her knowledge of Zephyrian technology to calculate the precise frequencies needed. As they worked side by side, human and Zephyrian crews watching in awe, Jack couldn't help but feel a surge of pride. This was what they had been working towards all along. True cooperation, each species bringing their unique strengths to bear. "Ready," Astra called out, her scales a determined blue. Jack nodded, his hand hovering over the activation controls. "Here goes nothing." A pulse of energy surged from the station, invisible but powerful. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then, one by one, the attacking ships began to drift, their weapons and engines sputtering out. The command center erupted in cheers. Admiral Thorne wasted no time. All available ships, move in and secure those vessels. I want the leaders of this Purity Alliance in our brig within the hour. As the immediate danger passed, Jack turned to Astra, his eyes shining with admiration. And something deeper. "We did it," he said softly. Astra's scales shimmered with a warm, deep purple. "We did," she agreed, reaching out to take his hand. In the days that followed, news of the foiled attack spread across the galaxy. But more than that, the story of how a human and a Zephyrian had worked together to save Nexus Station became a symbol of what could be achieved through cooperation. Jack and Astra found themselves at the center of a media storm, hailed as heroes and examples of successful interspecies collaboration. They used their newfound platform to speak out for unity and understanding. At a grand ceremony held on Nexus Station, with delegates from dozens of species in attendance, Ambassador Lyra stood proud as she addressed the gathered crowd. "Today, we celebrate not just the defense of this station, but a victory for all who believe in a united galaxy. My daughter Astra and Lieutenant Commander Harper have shown us the true power of bringing our diverse strengths together." As applause filled the hall, Jack leaned close to Astra, whispering, "So, think this counts as a successful cultural exchange?" Astra's scales rippled with amusement and affection. "I'd say so, though I believe our exchange is far from over." Jack grinned, squeezing her hand gently. "I was hoping you'd say that." As they stood there, surrounded by beings from across the galaxy, Jack and Astra knew that their journey was just beginning. There would be challenges ahead, prejudices to overcome, and differences to navigate. But they faced the future with hope and determination, knowing that together they could bridge any gap and overcome any obstacle. Their unexpected union had not only changed their own lives, but had set in motion a wave of change that would ripple across the stars, bringing hope for a more united and understanding galaxy.